I'm going to tell
How,
you.
sorry.
Oop.
How sweaty are you?
I mean,
Can you
enough.
continue?
Is that a?
You're not too sweaty. You can continue.
No, I'm
You don't
fine.
need to towel off or anything.
I'm going to tell you the story of a giant asshole who terrorized the small rural town of Skidmore, Missouri for decades. And what happened when that town got fed the fuck up?
Good.
Are you familiar with this? Does this sound familiar to you?
I'm not.
Okay.
But I'll tell you why I'm smiling at the end.
Okay, great. You always have there's always something. You get the sly smile at the beginning of all of these, and it always comes around to something. So 40 years ago, Ken McElroy was gunned down in broad daylight with over 40 witnesses in his immediate surroundings. And Mark, no one saw a thing.
Fuck.
You see, Ken was a bully. And not just the kind that shoves your head in a toilet or pulls your underwear between your ass crack. We're talking a gun-toting, statutory raping, arson committing, witness intimidating, dog-killing kind of bully.
Son of a bitch. In my head, he's like Wild West Buford Tannen from Back to the Future 3. That's who I'm thinking of.
I feel like that's generally like the picture that I had in my head this whole time as well. And the legal system just kept letting him get away with all of this. So throughout his life, Ken was known for all kinds of wrongdoing. He would steal everything from livestock to antiques. He was charged with theft a solid 21 times, but walked away from conviction every single time without fail.
21 times.
21 times. That's a lot of times for nothing to ever stick.
Yeah.
And we'll see why that happens, honestly. He was somehow, despite not being particularly attractive and also being seemingly terrible to every single person who encountered him, a known womanizer who fathered at least 10 kids and maybe up to 15 kids with a variety of women. Most notable among these baby mamas was a 14-year-old girl named Trina, whom he'd started having sex with when she was 12.
What was this guy called? Ken.
Ken McElroy.
He sounds like a fucking wanker.
Yeah. Oh, he's terrible on every possible level. Trina and her family had attempted to bring rape charges against Ken, and Ken was married at the time this was happening, which doesn't matter like on a adultery level. Like that's not the issue here. It comes back around that this is central to this story. Faced with the charge of rape, he went to Trina's family's house and insisted that she marry him, despite the fact that he is married at the time, because it would make their sexual relationship legal. When naturally her parents refused, he killed their family dog and burned their house down.
How far back are we talking here, Ken's
This
reign
is the
of terror?
80s or the 70s and 80s. Yeah. He was killed in 1981. So we're mostly talking the 70s here. So naturally, her family was scared for their lives and they relented. And Ken divorced his wife, Alice, and married Trina. And from everything I can tell, they all lived in the same house together. He just sort of moved in his pregnant new wife with his old wife.
I hate that I shared the planet with Ken, that our lives overlapped.
Yeah, intersected at some point. Yeah, overlapped with one another. Thankfully, mine did not. But yeah, gross. His breath particles were somewhere in you. Yeah. After Trina gave birth to their child, she and Alice, the divorced wife, fled together to Trina's parents' house.
Good.
But once Ken figured out where they were, once again, he went to the house while they were away, killed their new family dog, and burned their new house down.
Fucking hell, Ken.
Yeah, that's right. He did that shit twice. Just awful. So he was arrested, and Trina and her baby were placed in a foster home. But for whatever reason, after killing 2 dogs and burning down 2 houses to avoid statutory rape charges, Ken was released on $2,500 bail, and he would sit outside the foster home where Trina lived, just watching. which was a thing he was known for when someone crossed him, just sitting outside their house and
Staring
watching
them out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He even tried to bribe the family into a trade for their own biological daughter, who I guess was in foster care elsewhere. I mean, maybe they adopt. I don't know how this happened. I don't know why people who had their child taken away were fostering another kid, and the reasons didn't come up in anything I read. But one way or another, Trina and Ken ended up back together with her living as his wife.
I hate this guy.
Yeah, he is a like world-class piece of shit. Like,
I hate this guy.
And he continues on. I don't want to say it gets worse because it's hard to get much worse than the whole rape thing. But he does more. In 1976, Ken was out on the property of a man named Romaine Henry shooting his gun. And Henry took issue with this. So he pulled up next to Ken in his truck and told him to knock it the fuck off.
Yeah.
In response, Ken turned his gun on Romaine and shot him in the stomach. This poor guy offers a very harrowing description of this, by the way, in a 60 Minutes interview that you can find in our blog. I linked to it there. And the dude was clearly traumatized by this. And to make matters worse, when the incident went to trial, somehow 2 people testified that Ken had been elsewhere at the time of the shooting. What's more,
friends of Ken? How does Ken have friends?
He doesn't have friends. He has people he intimidates into doing shit for him.
Yeah.
So he's basically just got control of everyone by being scary and having no boundaries and being willing to, at the drop of a hat, like shoot a guy in the gut.
Shoot a dog. Shoot 2 dogs.
Right. Burn down a bunch of houses. I had 21 times he was taken.
Aside.
Right. Like, he's learned over the course of his life that there's no such thing as repercussions for anything that he does. He's untouchable. So
he's Ken, what's his name again? Ken
McElroy.
Fucking Ken McElroy. I hate him.
Hate him. So Ken's douchebag lawyer brought up that Henry, the man he'd shot, had
what kind of a fucking fuckhead do you have to be to defend a guy like Ken fucking McLemore?
And this guy is terrible too. Like, on a surface level, I get that every person is entitled to representation, and
Ken,
there are people who have to defend the worst of the worst, and that's their job. But this guy didn't just like do it out of duty. He persisted in, like, he looked at Ken as like his best client. He's like, he's great, he pays in cash, like he's here all the time. It's so just giant piece of shit. Also, you can see him in that 60 Minutes piece as well. So his lawyer brought up that Romaine Henry, the man he had shot, had a criminal conviction from 30 years ago that he had failed to reveal to the court. And therefore, this whole thing was a sham. You couldn't trust the guy. He must have like shot himself in the belly. I don't know why.
Oh my God, where's the justice here?
Yeah, it's ridiculousness. And of course, Ken got away with it completely scot-free. So Ken's lawyer,
he whistled as he left the courthouse.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Like, that's the thing. He was smug as fuck about all of this, right? Like, that he absolutely
already planning his next act of fucking dickery.
100%. So in that 60 Minutes episode, another guy from town said that Ken straight up told him he'd shot Romaine Henry. Like, it was just like, yeah, I did that. He kind of bragged about it, all that stuff. And when asked why he didn't come forward, this guy was like, why? You saw how the people who try to come against him get made a fool of. Like, it would have been absolutely useless for me to go over there and try to do anything about that. So Ken was so good at intimidating witnesses, he bullied the town police marshal into quitting his job. So Ken went to this guy and asked if he was going to go to court and share what he knew about the case. And the guy was like, yeah, I'm the police marshal. It's my duty to do that. And Ken then threatened him with a gun. And when the marshal tried to call for backup, no one was willing to face Ken and help him. He quit the next day and became a cable guy.
In shame, in absolute, with a cloud over him, with a mark on his name, his family's name. He's the guy who quit because Ken fucking told him to.
Intimidated him. But it was like, what's he gonna do? This guy is waving a gun at me and I'm calling backup and everyone's like, you're on your fucking own, dude. Like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna go install cable for the rest of my life. He was young too, like he's in that 60 Minutes thing, and I would say he looks like he's maybe 28 at the
Did Ken
time.
get his own episode of 60 Minutes then?
It's like a segment of 60 Minutes, yes. It's like a 14-minute segment you can watch about this. So in 1980, Trina told Ken that their 4-year-old daughter had been accused of shoplifting from the local grocery store, which is owned by a 70-year-old man by the name of Ernest Bowenkamp.
Okay.
Ken went down to the grocery store and reasonably talked it out with Mr. Bowenkamp, and then sat down to teach his daughter an important lesson about honesty and integrity.
Yeah.
JK. He walked into that store and he shot Ernest Bowenkamp for having the audacity. Thankfully, Bowenkamp had the presence of mind to turn his head when he came for him, and he was shot in the neck. Oh. He blacked out, but he survived. By the way, one source says that this was apparently months after the actual dispute about the shoplifting, and he just couldn't let it go.
Yeah.
So Ken's arrested and charged at first with attempted murder, which they realize is not going to stick. So they try to pin like assault on him. But he's released on bail to continue his reign of terror.
Yeah.
He took a gun with a bayonet attachment to the local bar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and waved it around while telling everyone, like, oh, when I see Ernest Bowenkamp, I got this thing for him. Like, just plain sight of everyone.
With a fucking bayonet.
With a bayonet. Like
oldie-timey weapons. I like those.
Yeah, right? It's just absolutely absurd. And the people of Skidmore had had more than enough at this point, worried for Bowenkamp's safety and for everyone else's, since no one seemed to be able to protect them.
Old man Bowenkamp, having run the store for as long as he did, would have been quite a beloved pillar of the community.
Right. And this is a small town we're talking about here, which is part of why this could happen there. You know, this is like a tiny little rural town. The actual like police station was like 13 miles away even from the town. It's just all people who kind of know each other and are part of a community. So yeah, Mr. Bowenkamp is definitely a pillar. So on July 10th, 1981, the townspeople met together with the sheriff to figure out what they could do. And the sheriff was like, listen, don't like directly confront him. Let's form a neighborhood watch. And they're like, okay. Yeah, all right. But during that meeting, it came through the grapevine that Ken and Trina had just pulled up at the tavern for morning drinks. I was reading through several articles about this. It wasn't until like the third one that it dawned on me that I was like, did I read the phrase morning drinks? Of course. And the townsfolk hit the road with a quickness, and pretty soon they had filled the bar surrounding Ken. He finished his drinks, he purchased a 6-pack for the road, and he got back into his truck with Trina, which, like, I mean, of course, he's also a drunk driver on top of it all. Why wouldn't he be, right?
Yep.
As the crowd assembled outside, 2 shots rang out and blasted through the driver's side window of Ken's car, killing him.
Good.
The bullets came from 2 different weapons.
Oh.
Yeah. All told, some 46 people were there when it happened. Not one called the ambulance or the police or even went and like turned off his truck.
Good.
And with no witnesses willing to name names aside from Trina, the DA had no choice but to drop the case. And to this day, Ken McElroy's killing goes unsolved. Trina filed a $5 million wrongful death suit against the city, but was only awarded $17,600, which is frankly criminal because they should have given that poor girl absolutely anything she wanted after a decade with that miserable bastard.
Surviving Ken.
Yeah, like, I mean, she kind of defended him after he died and everything, but I think it was probably for legal reasons. You know, I think she was probably like, you know, if it's his own fault or whatever, they're not going to pay me out for this and whatever. She did get married, moved elsewhere, and unfortunately died on her 55th birthday of cancer. But regarding Ken, as one townsperson poetically put it, he simply needed a killing.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I enjoyed that a great deal.
Yeah, it's a terrible story, but man, the comeuppance. Just everyone banding together. And it's great too. In that 60 Minutes documentary, you see like there's like 5 people who they weren't there when he was killed, including Bowen Camp and like the town's pastor and stuff like that, who are sitting around a table, all these like very nice, sweet looking Southern people. And the interviewer is like, you know, if you knew with 100% certainty, like who did this, would you tell? And they're all like, no. And like, oh man, it's so good. Like just all of them are just like at one point he asks, how could there have been 46 people and no one saw? And this like old lady is like, everybody was probably ducking for cover.
Everybody happened to blink at the same time.
Right.
What happened. There was a freak,
so full of shit in a great way.
Blinking episode. It does surprise me a great deal to hear that was as recent an episode.
Yeah, 1981.
Yeah,
when he finally met his
as you were telling that feels like some Old West type shit.
Yeah,
it feels
exactly.
like some frontier town. Well, fucking Ken came around and shot my dog. But this was recent times.
Exactly. It's recent enough times that the Marshal became a cable guy. Cable existed at the point that this happened. It definitely sounds, it's very frontier justice-y, except I imagine on the frontier, you know, in a Western situation, he wouldn't have been able to get away with that much before someone would have offed him. You know, this is the fact that people were relying on laws and they were relying on the courts and the police and whatnot to protect them. And it just kept failing them every step of the way.
I don't think I've ever come across anyone, and I'm giving it some real thought. I don't think I've ever come across anyone in my life that was just such a shithead they needed killing.
Yeah, right? Like, I mean, there's plenty of people that I'm like, I would be happy to give them a good punch in the face, but...
Certainly, plenty of people need a kick in the eye.
Yeah.
But I can't think of anyone who I would turn a blind eye to their murder.
Right. Yeah, it's very difficult to consider. I mean, maybe on like a global scale, like you could do that to Duterte or whatever the guy's name is from the Philippines, you know, the president or whatever. And I'd be like, yeah, sure. That's fine. Like a major figure like that. But yeah, just for someone in Donald your Trump. Town. Right. Yeah. I'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm not telling. But for someone just on an interpersonal level to be such garbage that everyone agrees in a church-going Southern town. Oof, you really fucked up, dude.
Love it. Nice, Corrigan. Thank you.
Now, what does this remind you of? Because you had a sly smile at the beginning of this episode.
Oh, it's so juvenile. And I even regret bringing it up now because it's super juvenile. What was the name of the town?
Skidmore? Oh.
Yes. That's it. That's literally it. And you started the story with going giant asshole and Skidmore. And that made you go tee.
Okay, fair enough. Ah, fuck.